So this week for my video, I'm doing another interview because I just love talking to people. And this week I'm featuring a British friend. So please welcome Sam. So glad to have you in the studio.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, do you love the studio audience? They are lively today.
They are lovely, yeah. I have one to see you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's enough. Yeah. So, hello, Sam. Do you want to... I didn't say your last name because I was afraid to.
That's fair enough. A lot of people are. But it's goyon-thorne. For some reason I find it hard to believe that a lot of people struggle with it. But that's maybe me because I
think I can pronounce it, but I don't know. Goyon-thorne, like...
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah.
So, okay, let's hear a little bit more about you, your life. Where did you grow up?
Well, that's an interesting story because essentially I've grown up in quite a few countries. I was born in England in 1997. I was born in Frimley, which is in Surrey, which is about, say, half an hour south of London. And I lived there for, I'd say, 6 months, just under a year. And then I moved to Holland, to Den Haag, and I went to nursery there, so pre-prep. And then I was there for 5 years in Holland, and then I moved to Moscow, Russia, where fortunately I didn't really get exposed to a lot of culture there because it was at a time where Moscow wasn't a very safe place. You know, nowadays when I say I lived in Russia for 5 years, I'm like, oh wow, in Russia must be really good. Like, not really. No, I could say probably a few lines. I can say hello and that's pretty much it. Yeah. So then after Moscow I moved back to Holland for 5 years, and that was quite a good time because in Holland it's quite a very good place to grow up because everything's very accessible, everything's quite close together. It's a very small country, and they have as many bike paths, they do roads in Holland, so you can cycle everywhere. After 5 years in Holland again, so 10 years altogether, I moved back to England.
So 10 years altogether that you lived in Holland at two separate times, yeah. 5 years in the middle in Russia.
No.
Back to your homeland.
Exactly.
So you are in your third year of university,
yeah.
Spending it in France.
Yes.
Why are you doing that?
I mean, I've always loved travelling, and from growing up in different countries and experiencing different cultures, and I mean, in the past couple of years I've done some interrailing as well.
Which, can you describe interrailing for us Americans?
Oh, so interrailing essentially is the process of taking the train around countries, not necessarily Europe, but for me it's been Europe, but I mean if you're just travelling around different countries and stopping off maybe a few days and experiencing some culture, and for me, you know, that's just, you know, the ultimate high essentially. I just love doing it.
Since being in France, you had been to France before, you had, you know, knowledge of French language, you have some family that, you know, Verne, as you said, yeah. And so, like, with having that previous experience, how has that influenced your life here? Like, you know, I came here having visited France once before, so I knew a tiny bit about France, but you have, like, a solid background of, like, yeah. visiting family here, so how has that influenced your life here?
In a sense, when I first came here, when I first came to Poitiers, it gave me a bit of, let's say, cockiness, maybe, because I was like, I'm gonna know at least a good solid background in the language to be able to, you know, at least to survive here easily. So, you know, I don't think I'll be too fazed by that. But the first day I was here, I went shopping to Leclerc, and
which is a grocery store.
Sorry, grocery store here. And I only got a few things, and I went to the self-checkout, and something went wrong. And the guy came over and he started speaking to me, and I just, I don't want to say panicked, but maybe there's a few words he said, or maybe he wasn't enunciating clearly, but I was just lost. I was like, I'm sorry, but you have to, can you please repeat what you said? And he was like, I still don't understand. I had a kind of little mini, freak out, because I'm like, okay, so maybe I need to get off my high horse, I'm rubbish at French. So yeah, and then eventually I understood that I was scanning the wrong barcode. There's 2 different barcodes. After him literally pointing it, there, no, there, yes, I felt like I was in China or something. I just didn't understand what the guy was talking about.
Yeah.
But then as I've been here more, and as I've started speaking more, things have come back to me. So I catch common phrases that we use here. One of the problems is that coming here, I knew quite a lot of slang terms and expressions that I would use probably more readily than I would say proper French, how you would speak to people you don't really know very well. So it's like essentially going up to someone you don't really go, hey man, what's up, yo, and then they don't really get it. So for me, it's been hard. I mean, when I'm home in France in Auvergne, then I can speak like that because I know everyone and the family don't really care too much, But here, it's been learning the proper way to speak to people, especially the formal way of speaking French, which is all the different conjugations that you need to know.
Vous voyez.
Exactly.
Terrible.
Yeah.
After the break, I'll ask Sam more about his personal life and find out his deepest, darkest secrets. We'll see you in a bit.
So pretend to do the news anchor thing, and pretend to talk when we're like just putting off all our notes away.
Yes. Okay.
And it's there for just a little bit too long, and then they look at the camera, they like glance at the camera,
Here. Okay. Oh, we're live? Okay. Welcome back to Madeleine Interviews a British French person who grew up in Russia and Holland.
I'm a British French person, this is brilliant.
So what have you learned about yourself since living in France?
Well, essentially, before coming here, I was quite, I was apprehensive a bit. I was a bit nervous.
Cocky?
Even though at the same time I was cocky. It was a bit of a weird feeling because I was nervous about how, essentially, of the social aspect of just finding people, really. But I wasn't too nervous about the whole speaking the language aspect, which, obviously later on I found out that I was indeed wrong about that part. But I was nervous because as much as I enjoy challenging myself and coming out of my comfort zone, I always find it hard to adapt to new environments quickly. It takes me it takes me time. I say not a lot of time. For me, it takes me about, I'd say, a week.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, for me, for some people that's slow. For some people it's quite quick. But essentially, as much as I was apprehensive about the whole social aspect, I learned that I do enjoy coming out of my comfort zone.
And so, just thinking more broadly about all those transitions, how generally do you deal with transitions? You've had to move a lot. You've had to say goodbye to people, make new friends, introduce yourself, tell your weird life story, explain your name, all of these different things.
Exactly.
How do you deal with transitions and, they're inevitably going to be hard, and kind of how do you get yourself through them?
So when I move somewhere new, I give myself a period of time where I'm focused solely on meeting new people in that specific place, and expose myself to the new environment that I'm in, and not going back and talking to my friends from other times. Because I found that whenever you're talking to some old pals or friends, you think about what could have been, and you think about, well, what if I stay, kind of thing.
Right.
So I think for me, what is very important, I don't know what led me to do it, but I just thought that, I think it'd be better if I focus on making friends first before I go back to my old friends.
I was just wondering, through all this time that you've moved, has there been any constant? Has there been anything, whether it's music or a motto or a TV show or just something that like kind of always sticks with you through all these places you've gone, that you're kind of like, you always go back to that? Or if, you're like feeling sad or just like displaced, that, kind of grounds you?
From a very young age, I have just been, I've been playing a lot of sport. So wherever country I was in during my growing up, during my adolescence, I would always be involved in some type of sport. And for me, that was a big constant from my childhood, because it's also where I met probably some of my closest friends that I look back on now and go, well, I'm very happy I did that, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So in Moscow, I did a lot of ice hockey. From Moscow, moved on to from ice hockey, moved on to rugby. So more of that contact sport, which is weird because I'm really not a aggressive guy, or I'm not really built for contact sport. I'm quite slender. I like running, like long distance. I'm just not built for contact sport, really. Yeah. And going to the gym never really, appeals to me, essentially.
I can identify with that.
Some of my friends from rugby after school, like, we're talking about, I don't know, year 9 here, which is what, grade 8, grade 10, I can't remember, it's one up, one below.
Oh, yeah, it's one below.
One
so
below.
grade 8.
They're grade 8.
Grade.
These guys are, after grade 8, we're in grade 8 and they're going, hey Sam, we're going to go hit the gym now. I'm like, I'm probably just going to go home and, play some PlayStation, have some milk or something. I mean, I've not had that testosterone kind of fuel, these guys drinking protein shakes, it's like, yeah, get big, get huge, get big for the ladies kind of thing. I'm like, no, that's just the last thing on my mind. Rugby is a massive team sport, and there's a real sense of, brotherhood, that you put your body on the line for your friends, and they do the same for you. And it's a sport where obviously that you can have individuality, you can have players that are gonna win matches for you, but rugby is a sport where everyone has to do their job very well. If not, then the whole thing falls apart. That's the whole grounding aspects of it.
Yeah, so it's been like kind of an activity, but then it's also been a community for you.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
You are excellent in the interview world.
Hopefully, I'll be in more situations where I have to do this more often, because
this will be good practice for when you're on Ellen.
Exactly. Yeah, when I'm up and coming car salesman. I was showing for that when people are like, well, you sold 10 cars this week. That is something good.
That is mind blowing.
How did you do it?
Aww.
Thank you. It's been lovely. I think I fantasize about it too much, like, what would like to be cool, But what is cool? I mean, it's very arbitrary.
What is cool?
Exactly, we can get into that as well. But
there you go. That's your new Insta bio. A French-British person who grew up in Russia.
A British person. I'm so very excited about that.
You sound just thrilled.
Trying not to lose my train of thought here, because I was talking about